Patrick Brown is the mayor of Brampton, one of the cities affected by the gang, as we heard from Pierre Poilievre. He's been calling for this designation. And Kash Heed is a Richmond City councillor. You know the rest of his resume, former BC Solicitor General, former police chief in West Vancouver, among other things. And he's been calling for more police intervention to tackle the Bishnoi Gang. Thanks to both of you for joining us. And Kash, let me start with you. Lawrence Bishnoi, the group's leader, has been in prison for over a decade. Why do you think this move is happening now?
Well, it's a political move. It's certainly not an operational move that's going to make a difference at the ground level. These extortions are going to continue to happen regardless of how you signify this Lawrence Bishnoi thug that's been in jail for, as you mentioned, over a decade right now. The extortions, you've got to really drill down to what's taken place, and you'll find that a lot of the local gangsters are involved in the extortions. And in fact, it's not connected now to an organized crime group. So at the end of the day, this is just another designation for this group. As a matter of fact, it's going to have a paradoxical effect where it's going to instill more fear in the community when they go after some of the people on these extortion threats.
Patrick Brown, you tweeted today saying this decision has made Canada safer. In what way?
Well, I'm not sure if Kash gets security or law enforcement briefings, but I can tell you in Peel region, the Bishnoi Gang has terrorized our community with extortions, with murder, homicides, and violence that is frankly heinous. If I'd say the most active transnational criminal organizations in the GTA, we're probably looking at the Sonola cartel and the Bishnoi Gang. And law enforcement was pleading for this tool, saying that the Bishnoi Gang is extremely sophisticated, extremely well-resourced, and they needed these tools to combat them in our region. And I've got great confidence in our local law enforcement when they say they need this tool. It's why I advocated for them.
Okay, so Mayor Brown, help us understand this then. What is it that local police in Brampton and other places in your part of Southern Ontario, in what way will this better serve police?
Well, we're dealing with a very, very organized transnational criminal organization, and they sort of viewed Canada as a location they could act with impunity. And law enforcement had limited tools. With this terrorist designation means that we can freeze assets, we can seize property. It's greatly enhanced investigative tools. Right now, you see members of the Bishnoi Gang who even put decals on their car and drive literally in the open with no consequence for their activities. This is going to change that. And so I really believe that the government of Canada did the right thing. I know they took longer than many of us would have hoped for, but I believe it's the right call.
Kash Heed, you heard Mayor Brown's case for why this will make a difference, even for police. What do you think?
Well, we're assuming that they have assets here in Canada, which my intelligence doesn't indicate they have. We're assuming they have property here in Canada, which the intelligence doesn't indicate that they have. So I'm not sure in the intelligence briefings that Mayor Brown is getting with respect to this. Secondly, the people that are using the Bishnoi name to instill fear in the community are just copycats. They're just wannabes. Most of them, for example, the letters that were spread around the Fraser Valley and Abbotsford here in British Columbia were in fact people that were of local gangs and international students that are operating it. Yes, there may have been some element, as I mentioned, of organized crime, but at this particular point, naming this group, assuming that they're this wealthy organized crime group operating here in Canada, is similar to the Mexican cartels. Even when we list the Mexican cartels as terrorist groups, we've had no real significant issues of seizing their assets, seizing their properties. As a matter of fact, the illicit drugs coming from Mexico are more than they've ever have been in the past. So I'm not sure, other than a feel-good politician making a statement, hey, we've just raised the profile of this group, we've just raised them to a terrorist group, it's really going to make a difference. Ian, you and I are going to wake up tomorrow, the South Asian community is going to wake up tomorrow, and they're still going to be victims of this ongoing extortion phenomenon we have.
So, Kash, years ago, you were a senior officer in the Vancouver Police. I believe that gangs were part of your portfolio. As I mentioned, you were a chief in West Van. You've said that you'd like the focus to be more on the operational part rather than political. So give me a couple of examples or an example of what you'd like to see.
On-the-ground resources deployed to ensure that the communication lines are clear and open with the South Asian community so that critical intelligence does come in with respect to what is going on. When I view this, I'm probably very liberal in saying a third of the extortions are actually reported to the police. We know many of the extortionists are being paid by people with respect to what's going on. So the first thing you got to do is instill the confidence in the South Asian community that if they come forward, they're going to be protected, and that intelligence is going to be utilized to put these people behind bars to make sure that we have a deterrent to this particular crime. Naming them as a terrorist group is not going to necessarily be a deterrent to this particular crime. We've got to end this balkanized finger pointing that is going on all over the place and get back to basic policing to get these people in front of the justice systems, regardless of where they are in Canada.
Mayor Brown, you and Kash Heed may disagree on how to approach this, but I'm sure we all agree on this. It is terrible that in Canada that there are people who are living in fear at times of any kind of criminal elements, extorting them, threatening them, making them feel unsafe. And so why don't we end, Mayor, with this? What message do you have to people, whether they're in your community of Brampton or out here in Metro Vancouver, who feel like they're living in fear of this gang? What's your message to them?
That we have better days ahead, that this is a very significant step in the right direction. And we have intelligence sharing that's happened between law enforcement across the country, extortion task force, digital recordings of Bishnoi's activity in Canada, unequivocal evidence. And now we're going to be armed with tools to combat that. So this is a great day for public safety in Canada, and I wouldn't want to diminish it. I got full confidence in our law enforcement and how important this step is.
Well, you may each have different views of how to best address this, but you both obviously share the goal of making people safer, and I appreciate you speaking with us live here. Patrick Brown, Mayor of Brampton, and Kash Heed, a Richmond City Councillor and former BC Solicitor General. Thanks to both of you.